Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and George Andre.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Bites podcast. Hello, Judge Andre. How are you?
Hello, Manuela. Nice to see you again.
Nice to
So
see you
today
too.
we have quite unique, let's say it, a unique theme for today, isn't it?
Yes, I think
Please,
it's
thank
quite
you. Yeah.
and sorry. So it's three magic words, three words that we consider to
Yes.
be essential words in team communication, and also
Yes.
three essential words in a dental practice that makes all the
Yes.
difference in a dental practice. And I
Yes.
think these words may appear simple because these are
Yes.
almost very common words, but we don't. I think we take them a little bit for granted, and we don't
Yes. Use them.
use them the way that we should use them. And for me, these words, and I think for you also, because it was one of the things that I was very, very surprised. And I think everyone is very surprised when you share that you have in your clinical in the protocols of your practice, that you have written that
Yeah.
words like thank you are mandatory in certain situations, and words like thank you are mandatory in certain situations in your
Yes.
practice. So and I remember that in one of the editions of our course, there was a colleague that she said when you mentioned this, she said it was like a light switch that turned on and it turned in her head, to say, because she is a practice owner,
A leader. And she never
and she
uses
said that and she said that she was bothered by people, for example, entering in or not entering, the doctors talking to assistants and never saying thank you,
Saying thank you.
when the
Yeah.
assistants do something. And she said,
Yeah.
and she didn't know how to change it. And she said, it's that simple. It's just to write it. This has to be written in the clinical protocols. So I think that these three words that we are going to talk about, please, thank you, and sorry, make all the difference, and they are part of almost of the culture of a dental practice if you integrate them in the everyday communication. And I think that's what we also going to talk about, how these words contribute for us to have a positive in connections and positive communication in a dental practice. So tell me, I'm curious, how did you realize that these three words, please, thank you, and sorry, have to be used in your practice, and why did you make them mandatory?
That's a very interesting question. Just while we were chatting on WhatsApp, just before I was finishing dinner, just before we entered the Riverside studio to record this, I was thinking about. Well, I'm sure Manuel's going to ask me why did I implement this? Because there's many things that I've implemented in my practice that I just copied or stole from someone. Many things, or that I learned here and there. I don't remember when I heard this, or if I heard this. Maybe I did, but I think that it was something that it seemed natural. It seemed obvious. It seemed and critical for the kind of culture and practice that that I wanted to develop. Actually, we've been chatting regarding the new themes and new subjects to talk about in podcasts, and one of them that we were talking about was dealing with drama addicts, right? And drama is a big thing that I want to keep away from my team, or I wouldn't say keep away, because humans are humans, right? But just try to minimize this as much as possible. And I think that one of the best ways to reduce drama is to create conditions where respect and um, being attentive to the other person, being respectful, being sensitive to other people. I think it's very important. So how do you do that? How can you have someone that is that has some social skills that are a little bit unbalanced, because we all face with some sort of we all face this behavior in others and in ourselves as well. So how can we control this? I wouldn't say control. How can we optimize this social behavior in a practice for others and for ourselves, which is also very important? How can we optimize this? Because again, as you say, I mean, dentistry is a melting pot of emotions, right? I mean, it's stress. Patients are stressed, and you can really feel the energy of patients. And we talked a lot about that. But I think that I came up. It seems something logical, and the main idea behind that is to make this a natural way of communicating between us, to make this something effortless, to make this something natural. And I think that saying please and thank you and sorry, I'm now remembering that when we were discussing about subjects, I remember something about this, which is, and this may sound a little bit silly, but is when you are in a relationship with someone, an intimate relation with someone, I mean, you love that person, right? But you often don't say that you love them, right? And I think it's the same way. You are thankful for the assistants helping you, but you most of the times you believe that's a given, right? That they understand, right? And if you love someone, it's always good to say that you love them, right? Because it reinforces the situation. And I think that saying that you are thankful for what someone passing you an instrument, just this simple act of thank you when you receive an instrument, if you become this automatic, I think only good things can come from that. That's what I believe. You may ask me, well, but if it is rehearsed, it's not as powerful. So my question is, so if you say that you love your partner, even sometimes just out of your mouth, and you are thinking about someone else, but I love you, that can never be false, right? Because that's something that you genuinely feel. And sometimes we forget to talk about these things, these small things, this thank you, this I love you, this please. If you can make your team use these words almost in an autopilot mode, it forces you and it forces the team to be more respectful between each other. Because I think that if you work in a practice that you know that you should say thank you, or you know you should say please, can you please pass me on this, can you please pass me on that, I think that small half of a second that you lose saying that makes a huge difference. This is what I believe. Because I think there's a lot of things that we take for granted. That's what I think. The way that people respect us, the way that people, if other people like us, if they don't like, I mean, sometimes in a relationship you just assume that things are always perfect, and if they don't tell you, even if it's a forced thing, even if it's forced, of course not untruthful, but if it's forced, I mean, you love someone, but you just remind yourself that you should say that more often. Sometimes you are thinking about something else, but just the fact that you are saying that it makes a huge difference. So this is the main principle that went into my mind when I started to
I
implement
think
this.
that, and if I can add something to what you just said, it has to do with authenticity. So, and authenticity comes from your words will match your actions. So, for example, for me,
So what you're
please,
saying, so sorry,
uh,
what you're saying is that if you say something, you are more prone to becoming that thing.
yeah, that's it. And also, for example, for me, please is a sign of respect. You know,
Of course,
when we use please when we make a request and you use the word please, we demonstrate
of course,
respect for the other person and also their autonomy. I think it's and and if you use please as respect, and if you are authentic, your actions also will show that you respect the other person. It's I think that the word please will only add to that, because if you show your actions show a totally lack of respect for the other
oh yes,
person,
of
then it's
course,
not by
yes,
you saying please
yeah,
that it's, do you understand what I'm saying? So it's
yes,
also, it
yeah.
has, I think it a compliment what you
I
said is that, so it might be like you said in autopilot. So it's something that you
yeah,
do, and it's something that you show to the other person, that you
yeah,
respect the work,
yeah,
but also adds to, it comes from an authentic way. It's aligned
yes, yeah,
with your
yeah.
actions. I think that's
I,
also
I would,
if it comes from an
I
authentic place, it will,
yeah,
everything will
absolutely.
align.
If yeah, if you genuinely feel thankful for what the person is doing for you, even though it's their job, if you genuinely feel thankful, of course, that's that's the best. That would be ideal. But I would go even further. I think that by establishing these norms, you are actually reinforcing the authenticity. You are actually,
Yeah,
when you implement the policy of please, always try to say please, always try to say thank you, always try to say sorry. If you
because what
implement
you are
this
making
culture,
is a company culture, right? And a
yes,
dental
yes,
clinic, a
exactly.
dental practice is a company. So what you are fostering is a company
Yeah.
culture by using
And
these
it's
words.
compounding.
You are
It's
giving a
compounding.
message, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
And don't you
compounding.
think in
So
this?
this is a bit,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that this is very interesting because it goes, it's like I said in the beginning, it's three simple words, but they say so much. Don't you think that
Yeah.
this is so important, especially nowadays where we live in this divided society, you know? Because I
It
mean,
is, yeah. Yeah.
a dental practice employs a lot of people, and
Of
I mean
course.
everyone is different. So for you
Yeah.
to reinforce and to foster
Yeah.
this positive culture,
Yeah.
within your practice, by using these words, by using this language, don't you think that helps the team members to connect into a deeper level, and it,
Absolutely.
in order for them to be able to communicate and put aside their differences? Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because we
Yeah.
are living this
Yes, for
divided
sure.
times.
Yeah, we have the political division, we have ethnical division, we have age division, we have religious division. I mean, there's just so many things going on. Generation gaps. I mean, there's just so many. And everybody's so ultra sensitive today that I think it works. Yes, it works as a regulator, let's say. And I think that one of the things that I truly believe that this sort of policy creates is that it creates um, a more humanized team, in the sense that I am conscious of you, I am aware of your needs. I am aware that you're a person. I am aware that even though this is part of your job, I thank you for having done this. And if someone says, okay, if someone just gives me something and he drops it, or if I drop something and I ask the nurse to remove the gloves and to just to pick it up and change the gloves, I always tell them, oh, I'm sorry. I always, and if they do the same, because I think it creates a shared responsibility environment. And I also think it creates a more humanized environment. So that stress of the mistake, I think it fades away. When I talk about mistake, I mean, there are mistakes like accidental mistakes, things that go wrong, even technical mistakes that the dentists do, that I'm very tolerant with those. I mean, and some of the things that I'm not that tolerant are like delayed on schedules in terms of let's say that someone that needs to present a treatment plan, it's supposed to be presented in 3 weeks, and I go and see that it's 8 weeks and they haven't presented a treatment plan. Then I really get these are the things that if they become recurrent, it really gets me pissed off. It really gets me pissed off. But I think on the everyday situation, someone drops this, someone I don't know, just they made a mistake when they were pouring the cast, or they broke something. I mean, these are normal things, and you have to accept this as normal. So I'm sorry for this. I think you have to accept this as normality. But yes, for sure, this makes the dental team more humanized, more respect. There's more respect between each other, and yes, of course, it attenuates differences between people. And in my case, I mean, I have several ethnicities working with me. I have my biggest issue. I think the biggest differences that I have in my team are age related, which is also a thing. And then after that, I think we all get along in between the rules that we provide. But yes, this is a particularly important rule. Let's say this is something that I really think makes all the difference. Yeah.
I just wanted to point something very interesting that I just took note, because it's a paradox, because you said that these words might be said in an autopilot mode, but then you said, but these words will make the communication and environment more humanized. So
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
and yeah.
My point here is this. I mean, you know, that thing that you should fake it till you make it. I usually I don't believe that, but there's some truth in that. I mean, let's say, for example, let me give you. This is a very typical example. There are people they just don't use these words, right? And it's not because they are bad people. Maybe they worked in places where there was not that culture, right? So when they come, you cannot expect someone to naturally and innately tell you that they are sorry and thank you. This doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis for many people. If you bring someone new to the team, and if you tell, look, here we have this policy where we say please and we say thank you, and she will be surprised, or he will be surprised, because people will pass things to them, or they will
Yeah,
receive things
this
from
is
them, and
not this is not something that it's said.
yeah.
It's something that we take for granted, but then it's not
Yeah.
said and it's not done. Yeah.
Yes, and that new person, when she interacts with an environment when this is normal, it's normal to say please, it's normal to say thank you, and it's frequent. We say normal and thank you and sorry. I don't know, in my practice, maybe more than 20 or 30 times during the day.
Mm-hmm.
If this is norm, then you start to say that. You also start to say that. And I think that once you start to normalize and use these words frequently, I think you become, even though it's in autopilot, you become more human. It's like I remember the first books of yoga that I've read were the first one was the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, and there was something there. It was the first time that I've ever not the first time, because in the Bible it says the same thing. Is that you have to force your forgiveness even though you don't feel like you want to forgive, right? And you have to force your love, even though sometimes you don't. I'm not talking about an intimate love, but I'm talking about compassion. You have to be compassionate, even though you don't feel like being compassionate, right? Because sometimes it's just your emotions ruling. And I think the same thing here. You have to be thankful. You have to say, even though you may not, let's say you are, for some reason, there was a problem between two nurses. I mean, some slight stuff. If they know they need to say sorry and thank you, if that is the norm, I mean, there is this, even though they may be a little bit pissed off with each other, there is this higher layer of normality that needs to be respected, which facilitates everything. So, yes, I think that if you normalize these things, and I understand it can be a little bit paradoxical, but if you normalize, if you automatize this, it will eventually become the truth. You are actually being sorry. You are actually saying please. You are actually saying thank you, because you normalize this. And once you normalize, it's just like affirmations. I think it's just like writing goals. I mean, the more you do it, the more you internalize the feeling, because words are very powerful, right? Words, they have this very strong energy, right? In a discussion, sometimes you say the wrong words because you are just pissed off, and the relationship will never be the same. Sometimes we do that, right, with friends or with partners. So I think it's the same thing. I think you should use the words in your favor. You should use the energy of the words in your favor, right? And this is why
also
I think
because
that
you will shift the
energy.
the focus, right? Like you were saying, sometimes in the dental practice, that I think there's a million things that can go wrong, and there are a certain tendency. I mean, it's also, as human, we have a negativity bias, but there's a certain tendency when something goes not so well, and to make a big deal out of that. So you already
Yeah.
mentioned the drama. And so the negative is highly, we give a lot of attention to it. I think that by doing this, and you shift the focus to the positive, and you create also this connection. It's a more horizontal relation. So not
Relationship,
so
absolutely. Yes.
it's more
Yes.
horizontal. Like you said, it's a shared responsibilities, because these words
Absolutely.
give that it gives a shared responsibility, a connection, a human connection. So we are all humans, the basic level.
Yes.
And I also think it creates, I mean, by giving this positive culture is also creates a sense of belonging, to that
Yes. As a
the
team.
place where
Yeah.
you work, and a sense of belonging as a team,
Yeah.
even if you have different opinions and perspectives. It creates this sense of belonging. And I also think it's interesting, this positive culture, and this positive shift that this words brings. Also, it's interesting to analyze from the perspective of patient experience, because I think that this
Yeah. I
this
was going to talk
positive
about that. Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
I think it will be felt by
Absolutely.
patients.
Yeah.
And I think that if a practice have this positive energy and culture, it's more likely to provide a positive experience to a patient, and for the
Yes.
patient to feel that. And I think that
Yeah.
patients, I think that they seek positive experiences,
Yeah.
because we know dentistry is already highly stressful, not only but for the treatment itself, but also because it's expensive, and we know
Yes.
that people don't like to spend money on the dentist. So I think they look for environments where they feel this positivity between the team. And I also think that this kind of culture is important,
Yeah.
to to attract, and retain talent. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Yes. I think
I
so.
think
Yeah.
that you will start looking, and you'll start finding also people that also share this and foster
Yeah,
this culture.
yeah. I think so. I think that. Uh, I'm thinking for myself. I'm thinking. I'm trying to put myself on the feet of my nurses and the staff that works with me. And I have to be really honest here. I'm not bragging, but they may eventually be earning more elsewhere. That would not be difficult. They could do that, but uh, I would think they would miss the peace. I would think they will miss the peace and the predictability of their days and the respect and the low stress. I think they will miss that. They would miss that. I've had I've had a few cases of people that tried to work elsewhere and they could never adapt. Yeah. And they just prefer to be gaining more and more my patients in my practice until they became full-time in my practice. I have at least two of them that happened. But yes, I agree. It creates a culture where people feel, I think, more at peace. Yeah, and it's you were talking about. Let me talk about two things. So first of all, for people that are listening to us, so how does this happen? How do people come to say this frequently? Please and thank you and sorry. So basically, on on our manual, on our operating manual, we have three parts. We have the strategic goals, which are just 10 strategic goals. We have the operation principles, and we have the procedures. For the procedures, the final part, so we have one list of procedure, one sequence of procedure per procedure. We have like about 200 or 300 procedures. For number one, strategic objectives is like the 10 objectives of our practice. And for number two, which is the operating principles, we have about 30 operating principles, which is if you don't find answers on the list of procedures, you eventually will find that answer in terms of a mindset, let's say, on the operating principles. One of the operating principles is, for example, we never charge the patient for the first time more than X, because if it is an emergency or the first time, we never want to surprise the patient when he comes outside to the receptionist to pay, unless it's something that was planned already. So we don't like to abuse the first time or an emergency. Another thing is whenever a nurse, whenever someone in the practice gives you something, whenever you ask for something, or whenever you receive something, you ideally should always say please and thank you, even if you have to tell that 100 times a day. So please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you, and I'm sorry. So make that, and we have that written down on the operating principles, on the operating principles exactly. We have that written down, and if there is someone that tries never to forget, that is me. Yes, I always try to do that. It can be. I'm always saying this, that I can eventually miss that. If I do this 80 to 90% of the time, that's a go. Of course, that sometimes I may miss one or the other, but I do this every time. Just like everybody asks asks before or announces before they enter a room with a patient. They always say "excuse me" before entering a room. Like everybody does that. It's completely implemented.
That's also
no one even think. Yeah.
But that's
That's
also
also in the
in
operating
the manual,
principles.
right?
Yes, that's not even a question. So all these things are written down, and for someone that comes and works with us, they just read this. Even today, for example, there was a person that came to watch me. Some out of the university dentist came to see me work, and I always give them the code of conduct for dentists and the code of conduct for nurses for them to read before they start to see my appointments. But yes, this is something that it's written, and we have a culture where we always try to say this as much as possible, right? We always try to say this, and we try to review these operating principles as often as possible. I mean, we have meetings like we talk a lot of times here, but yes, this is not casual. This is written. This is intentional. This is very important. This is an intentional protocol that we have implemented. The second thing I would like to tell was that you were asking something?
Continue,
The
continue.
second thing that you are telling us about the patients can feel that. Yes, they love the fact that someone excuses themselves before they enter the room. If a nurse comes and enters the room, they always say that. This doesn't happen very often in practices. This is why it needs to be intentional. It needs to be written. Now, there's another perspective for patients, and I'm always telling that. Sometimes people say that I tell this too much. Whenever and this is also the code of conduct, whenever I'm working with a patient, whenever I'm doing something, I open, please, thank you, close, please, thank you. So please, thank you, and sorry are the words that I more frequently use when I'm treating patients. So turn to the left, and I just turn their head, okay, thank you, because it's like, it's completely effortless to me, you know. I'm just constantly using that. So thank you, sorry, thank you, please. I'm always doing that. Can you just turn to the left, please? Thank you. Okay, that's great. Well done. Thank you so much. This is part of my vocabulary. It's completely effortless, completely effortless. But I admit that I use this sometimes too much. Okay, but this is why I think it is important, is because if you use it in an automatic mode, other people, they get this. The energy becomes more human. The report becomes easier. I think everything, even if you are maybe thinking about a clinical procedure and that is just part of your cassette, you know, that's just part of your vocabulary, even if you don't give it value any longer because you use it so much, sometimes without thinking, the other person catches it. And it just creates a better energy. It just creates a better environment. So yes, to patients, we always use these words constantly. Thank you, sorry. And if the nurses see that the leader does that, or if the nurse see that the dentist does that, and if the nurses see that other nurses do that, this is really, I think it's a very important
It's
detail in
contagious,
terms of
right?
communication. Yes. But I think it makes all difference because one of the things that sometimes I think that happens is that people think, well, you use it so often it loses its value. No, it doesn't. I don't think it does. Yeah. And it's true that when you say something so often, it may become normalized. I understand, but I think it never gets out of fashion saying please, thank you, and sorry. That's what I believe. And
True.
we
And
are
it, like, and
yeah.
continue.
And we are talking here on a very superficial level, which is on the everyday things, right? Um, we haven't talked about using the sorry when we messed up big time or when we had a fight with another dentist and we need to now go and talk to them and say that you're sorry.
I
I'm
think
not even
sorry is a
talking about
tricky
that.
one. I think sorry is the most tricky one.
Yeah. So yeah, but I was talking on a superficial level. Now,
Hmm.
when we are talking about conflict and conflict resolution and some fights and stuff, I think that that's a different story, right? It assumes a deeper meaning, and there's a whole lot of different things that you have to take into account. But I think that on a superficial level, on everyday tasks, if a nurse passes me the composite, if I ask her, I say thank you, and she passes me, I say please. And of course, that if she's always passing me this and that, I don't need to be saying thank you 10 times in a minute, of course. But I mean, if you do it like, I mean, you just need to have some common sense and make sure that throughout the appointment, the nurse feels thanked for and she feels useful and she feels respected. And yes, the patient gets it. And I think the energy is just, it's always better this way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and I also think that sorry, it's the most tricky one. But before we, because I would like to see the three of them in separate, not much, but I think it would be
Okay.
interesting. But
Yeah.
just to wrap this part, because what you said is very important, and for the ones listening that work in a dental practice that do not have a system implemented, or that all of these things are not written down. because we know it's maybe not the majority, but there's a lot of practices that still don't work with this kind of
Yeah,
system implemented in protocols. Well, first of all, you can go to our course, because that's one of the parts that
exactly.
we work, and you help a lot on that, and you teach how to start and how to write a practice protocol from start.
From scratch.
But I
Yeah,
think it's important to engage. I think in conversations, about what you said about the culture that you want for your practice, or the culture that you envision for your practice. So, and it's important to listen to everyone, ideas and thoughts, and
absolutely.
for
Yeah,
these things to be implemented. And also the
absolutely.
second more effective thing, and you already mentioned also, it's to lead by example, as
Example.
you said.
Yes.
So it's not 100%, no one is perfect, but I mean, if you are the and you don't need to be the owner, you don't need to be the owner, even if
Yeah.
you if
No.
you are an associate. Your actions and behavior set the tone of your work. And if your words match your behavior, and if you reinforce your actions with words, and if you show gratitude, and if you show respect by saying thank you, by saying please, and by saying sorry also, that it's very important. I think that people will feel that, and it's like you said, it's contagious. So people will do it. It has a mirror, almost a mirror effect. So people will reply it, and that you will feel that positive change, and it will change the focus from the negative to the positive. And I think that in a dental practice, this is so important, because I mean, I hear colleagues every day to mention the exhaustion, the mental exhaustion, the negativity, and all of that. And I think that simple actions like this are not, and we take it that simple, but they are very powerful, and they have all that power that you just mentioned. So, okay, I think let's see. I mean, not in much detail, but let's start with
Some
please, which
examples.
is, yeah, I
Okay.
think that and we already said we don't have
Yeah.
to go very deep on this, but I think that
Yeah.
please, it's very, when we already said it, it shows respect. It's
Yeah.
it's like we show a sign of cooperation, that we want to cooperate.
Yeah.
I think it will make the relationship more horizontal, and I think it gives this environment of also kindness. That
Absolutely.
you are being kind to the other person, and you feel the other person valued. That's
Yes.
my take
Yes.
on
And that absolutely
please.
that you value the other person's service that she's going to do to you, or that he or she's going to do to you. Yes. And for example, please, I use a lot. I always try to say please in everything that I ask throughout today to my nurses. So just some, can you please call Mr. X? Can you please send this? Can you please? I always use that. And also, I try never to forget that on emails, on written communication. I always try to, always.
Do you think, let me ask you this question, do you think that sometimes when people fail to use the word please, is there maybe because and I'm talking now on this specific context, for example, with assistants. Do you
Okay.
think that it's because they feel if they use the word a lot, please, it's like a lack of authority? It's like, okay, I'm the boss here, so I don't need to be saying please to
I
you all
think
the time.
I think that you open the possibility for that to happen,
It's like
right?
it's seen
I
as
mean, if you
weakness.
I think that when you could have said please and you don't do that, you open the possibilities for being misinterpreted. That there may be some sort of misinterpretation, or maybe if you had some small fight with one of the nurses in the day before, and if you go in the next day, if you say please, everything is going to be smoother. If you just don't say it, you are just opening a space for I think that by using please, you always lower the probability of having a bad reaction, or a bad interpretation of what you are saying. But if you ask me, so why don't people use it more often? I think it's um, at the end of the day, it's always insecurity. At the end of the day, it's always that, or you are pissed off with someone, or she did me that, he did me that. I'm not going to say thank you or please or this. And I think this is a big mistake. I think independently of your relationship with the other person, we may be closer or less close between nurse and stuff. I think that if you use the please and the thank you and I'm sorry, I think it's always better, right? And it will in no way make you look inferior to the other person. That's what I think. On the contrary, I think that when you on purpose don't say please, when you on purpose don't say thank you on purpose just because you are mad, I think it's just a sign of weakness, to be perfectly honest, and a sign of insecurity. That's what I think. Yeah, because I think that, and the other thing is that not everybody is born with the capacity to say please and thank you. I think that we have to, maybe you have an education
It
when
has to be
maybe you
taught,
were.
right? Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, yeah. And it depends on the family where you are brought up. In some families this is norm and they implement this in the kids. Some of the families there may be a lot of drama, and that this is not the norm. So you have to figure this out for yourself. But whatever the case, I think that my advice would be, if you don't use this regularly, just try it, just force it. Even because, look, even if this nurse is lousy, just saying thank you and please and sorry will only bring positive changes to the relationship. Only. There's no way it can make things worse. On the contrary. So my advice would be, just try. Just try to implement and just force yourself to always be saying this. Yeah,
Try
but
it
please, I
and
try to say
send us an email
without. Yeah.
telling us the results, because it
Yes, of
has
course. Yeah,
results, it has benefits. Yeah.
we would
Yeah,
love
yeah,
to
yeah.
hear those. That could be a nice
Yeah, yeah.
challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a
True.
nice challenge. Actually, we should place like a post on Instagram just with a poll, just to see how often do you say please when the nurse gives you an or brings you something. How often do you say please when you ask something for a nurse from a nurse? Yeah, that could be a nice idea. Yeah, but I use
Yeah.
this almost unlimited. I use this the please and thank you
You know,
without
what
any limitations.
I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but I think, and because I think these things they have to be very intentional until they become autopilot. Like you said in the beginning, we have to be very intentional with this. We have to
Yes,
use
yes.
these words on purpose. And I think that
And
if we do this poll, and
maybe it
again,
will
I might,
be.
yeah,
Sorry, maybe it would be even strange when you all of a sudden start to say thank you and please and sorry to the nurses. They may even find it strange, which is a good sign. It's a sign that
which is a good
that
sign. You see,
yeah,
what is he doing now? Something changed here,
yes,
because these are, like I said, simple words, but they have a huge impact. And if you are not used
yeah,
to use them,
yeah,
the nurses will say, "Oh, what is he doing? Something is different here."
yes.
But
What's
I
wrong
was
here?
going to say
Is he had a good he had a good day yesterday, or
a good
what
weekend,
happened?
yeah.
He had a good weekend.
But
Yeah.
look, I was going to say to you that I think that if we do this pool and you ask how often do you say please when the nurse gives you an instrument, I think that in a very we think that we say it more often than we actually say it. If you are not aware,
Yes.
if you already done some kind of work in order to pay attention
Yeah.
how you spend your days working, and if you already developed some emotional intelligence, if you already worked on your reactivity in your dentistry practice, then you know exactly the amount of times that you say thank you and please and sorry. But if you have not done this work, I think this answer will be not the reality, because sometimes we think these are so basic things that we think that of course I say thank you, of course I say please. And then, but it might be useful, because then someone, even if it's just one person that is listening to us, or that reading that pool, says, okay, I'm going to start paying attention. And it realizes that maybe sometimes we even think, but we don't say it. It's just like you said it. We don't say things enough, especially the basic things. So I think that before these things become autopilot, like you said, and that's the reason why you have it on your manual, it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. And in the beginning, they have to be very, very intentional. But this is a good one. I will do that. I will do a pool, and for the ones
Let's see.
listening, we really challenge you. Really take notice of the
Yeah.
of the times a day that you say please, that you say thank you, that you say sorry, and let us know. And make the experience of being more intentional with using these 3 words, and let us know the results, because it has benefits. Okay, very quickly. Thank you. And I think thank
Thank
you, we
you.
already said it. It has a lot to do
The
with
same thing.
gratitude. And we know that gratitude, I mean, it boosts really our mood. And I think thank you has that appreciation and value for the other person work.
Yeah, I use it uh, as frequent as please. I always try to end my emails with a thank you, and I always try to say please in the emails whenever I'm asking for something, both in written and in verbal communication. Obrigado. I always say obrigado, obrigado, obrigado. I keep saying this throughout the day. Yeah, I use it, both of them. I would say never less than 10 times a day, never less than that, for the nurses, for the dentists, for if I include the patients, it will double. Yeah, but it's just part of the it's just completely effortless for me. It's just part of my language. It's completely part of my language. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that thank you.
But
It's, I
for
mean,
example, Manuela, you
mhm,
you
yeah.
you you are a person that uses this since the first time that we started to communicate. You are a person. You are a very careful person in this matter, right? Both written and verbally. You are
I
very
try. I
aware of
try.
this, right?
I
Yeah,
try. I try to be
you are.
very
Yeah,
conscious, but it's something that I worked also. But
I
yes,
mean we all do, but
it comes in a natural way, and sometimes I what happens, it's I feel that sometimes I don't say it enough, you know and sometimes it's
I
important
think
for
we
me to
all do.
say
Yeah,
really, really thank you for your kindness, thank you for your
yeah.
support, thank you for your. I think when I said it to you not recently,
And
when
yeah,
we about the
you
Karma
tell me a lot of
Award, and
times. Yeah, yeah.
about the Karma Award, and I felt the need of saying no, thank you, congratulations, and really thank you
Of
for
course.
everything. And actually, I was kind of sick in the end of the year. I had the flu. I had a couple of days that I was not well, and it was and that time of the Karma Award, and we had to do some posts, and you
Yeah.
kind of saved me because you wrote all the things, and then after all that mess, I felt the need of say really thank you for the support and for
Yeah.
being there,
And
and because I think
it's
it's
so
very important to
it's
recognize.
so effortless. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you weak. It only makes you stronger. And there's that saying that say that it's impossible to be unhappy when you are grateful, right? And it is true. It's such a strong feeling of belonging and of feeling lucky for being in a given situation, right? Because we don't,
It's a chain reaction, right? I think
yeah,
that you really it's like you when you receive gratitude, you feel like it's you want to retribute, you want to give back,
yeah,
and that's why what I love about that also.
yeah, yeah. And the sorry word,
Yeah,
yeah. Whenever we drop something, whenever we do something, whenever we forgot to do something that is, I mean, just like casual everyday tasks that we mess up. I mean, small things, of course. Um, we always try to say sorry. Oh, sorry for this, sorry for that. I mean, it's not a big deal. Okay, I'm sorry, I just did wrong. And sorry is one thing, but I think that it's also important to add to realize the mistakes that you do and to deal it without any issue. So assume responsibility. So this was my fault. There's nothing wrong. I just messed up, right? And again, this is a sign of confidence. It's not a sign of weakness. Not
that
saying that
that
is actually a
is
sign.
mhm. That is why I think sorry is tricky, because sorry, I think it mm, takes the courage to take responsibility for our actions.
Yes,
Uh, Acknowledging that we may have caused inconvenience
a problem.
to
Yeah,
others, right?
yeah,
And I think that sorry is the one that it's more a little bit more tricky, more difficult, and I think that
yeah.
sorry requires a little bit more of empathy or
Growth.
compassion and a little bit
Yeah,
more of emotional intelligence. So I think from the three,
yeah,
sorry is the most tricky one, and and also I think that it shows strength, and and I think that it shows also a willingness to grow and to learn. If you are able to say sorry, I think it shows that you want to grow and to learn. But sorry, sometimes in dentistry, I think it could be I misinterpreted. I remember I had one time one assistant that said to me, you should not apologize to your patients. You should not apologize to your patients." You know, I remember someone saying this to me, and because I remember it was some like when I was giving the anesthetic and the patient complained, and I said, "Oh, sorry," and in the end, but she didn't say it in front of the patient. The patient was out, and she took me aside and she said, "You should not apologize to
yeah.
the patient." You know,
I
but
understand her
for
point of
me
view. Yeah,
it's very yeah, but for me it's very natural thing to do. But I can understand that there are certain situations, and I suggested this theme for us to talk in another
yeah,
podcast, how to deal with patients that are dissatisfied. That when you have a
yeah,
dissatisfied patient, how
yeah.
should
But
you deal with that? And
yeah,
for
but
example, should you
regarding,
apologize? That's a big
yeah,
thing. Should you
yeah,
say sorry?
yeah.
You know,
I completely understand where she's coming from, because basically she's like, she believes that when you are saying sorry that you are admitting some sort of mistake, but that's not only the case. For example, you can say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to know that your father or your mother has passed away. Oh, I'm sorry that you are in such a situation." It's like you are being there's this solidarity with a person, right? So it's not always like I made a mistake. No, it's not always like that. This is why I understand that whenever you do something, you ask the patient. So, for example, you are numbing the patient and you say you're sorry. I think I understand, but just by adding something like, "Oh, I mean, it's normal in this area. It's a bit sensitive. Sorry about that." But I mean, so it's like, this is normal. I am sorry, but that it's not possible to do it any other way. Just give some signs that it's not a mistake that you have done, but this is what happens, right? And you are sorry that the patient is suffering a little bit there,
It's
right?
acknowledging, is that it's acknowledging it's like showing empathy, right?
Yeah, yeah. But it's does not. But saying sorry does not necessarily mean that you are guilty of something. And
Or
if
that
in
you made a
doubt, just
mistake.
add something. Or that you made a mistake. Just oh, sorry that you're feeling that. But I mean, this is just in this area. It's a little bit sensitivity, and unfortunately, sometimes there's a little bit of discomfort here. But it's fine. So when you use sorry to a patient, I think yes, it is important. If you believe that that may be misinterpreted as a mistake that you have done, I think you should clarify things, right? Yeah, but I understand where she's coming from. But saying sorry again does not always mean that you make a mistake. It means that you understand that the other person is not is going through some less good moments or less good time in their life. For example, I'm sorry that you are feeling this way. I'm sorry that this happened to you. It's okay.
Okay, good. That was nice. I
That
think
was a
that
good one.
this conscious use of these words, it can really make a difference in
Yes.
dentistry, and create a dentistry with more kindness, an environment in dental clinics more kind, more compassion.
Yeah.
So I think the
Our
language becomes this positive starter of a better future. I think for dentistry.
yeah. Our advice would be just try to force it yourself. Try to implement it in your dental practice. Try to write it down. Talk about this in the next team meeting. Just try to implement, even if many people will believe it's silly, but never mind about that. Just try to implement that. Just try to
Hmm.
slowly implement as a practice policy, just to say thank you and sorry and please in a light way, in a positive way, because I think the results will be very nice. I think you will see some positive changes in the team, and the basis of a good culture, the basis of an healthy working environment. I just respect and empathy, and showing that actually you care for the service the other people is providing you, even though they are just doing their job, right? It's always good to acknowledge that.
Yes, and if you want to know more about how to create this positive environment, you can join us in
Our
Sagres.
course,
We're going to
absolutely.
have the next edition, 21, 22, and 23 of March in beautiful Sagres. If you want to know more, just go to softbites.online, or just send us an email. And thank you for listening. Thank you, George.
I'm looking
Thank you,
forward to
Andre.
that. Looking forward to March.
Me
So
too.
thank you so much, Manuela, and see
Thank
you on the
you.
next episode.
See you on the next episode, and bye bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.